And our last set of notes deals with a little bit about membranes and then our last four types of tissues. So epithelial membranes are composed of both epithelial tissue and connective tissue. And examples include serous. Serous membrane is going to line cavities or passageways that do not open up to the outside. So like for instance your thoracic cavity, okay, between your lungs and the walls of your thoracic cavity, the cage, your rib cage, between your abdominal organs and your muscles that form your abdomen. That's where you're going to find your serous membrane. It secretes serous fluid, which is a watery type fluid that helps to basically lubricate it when your organs and stuff are moving so they don't stick to the walls of your cavities. Then there's the mucous membranes, and mucous membranes are the ones that do line the openings that open up to the outside, or your passageways or cavities, like your oral cavity, which is your mouth, all throughout your alimentary canal, which is basically your entire digestive tract, starting from your mouth all the way to your anus. So that's going to contain your mucous membranes. And then the last type are cutaneous, and cutaneous membranes is just another word for your skin. Synovial membranes are composed of connective tissue only. There is no epithelial tissue that forms that. And these are going to be found in your joints, so like your knee, your elbow, your shoulder. That's where your synovial membranes, those are actually called synovial joints because of that. They secrete a synovial fluid, which is kind of similar to the consistency of egg whites. It just helps with reducing friction and lubrication in your joints. So when your bones are moving. Oops. All right, next up are muscle tissues. And muscle tissues are composed of muscle cells, as well as blood cells and nervous cells and stuff. Muscle cells are also called muscle fibers. And the characteristic that's unique to muscle tissues is that they're contractile. They're able to shorten, okay, upon stimulation. And there are three types of muscle tissue. There's skeletal muscle tissue, cardiac muscle tissue, and smooth muscle tissue. Skeletal muscle tissue is located in your regular muscles, okay? So the muscles that are attached to bones. So for instance, your biceps brachii, your rectus femoris, your sternocleidomastoid, your gluteus maximus. Those are composed of muscle tissue, skeletal muscle tissue. Their appearance is striated. Striated means that it's got a striped appearance. There's bands and stuff, alternating light and dark bands that form it. And this is the kind of muscle tissue that you can control, so it exhibits voluntary control. You can contract your triceps brachii, which allows you to extend your arm. Okay, you consciously control that. Even though you're not saying arm contract right now, but if you're going to move to pick something up or whatever it happens to be, you're doing that. The next type of muscle tissue is cardiac muscle tissue, and it's located only within your heart. Okay, it, like skeletal muscle, is striated. It's also branched, and it has something called intercalated disc. I'll show you what that looks like in the picture in a minute. That's unique to cardiac muscle tissue. So when you're looking at these underneath the microscope slides, that should be something you should be trying to find if you can. Control is involuntary. You don't tell your heart to beat. You don't think about it. You can't tell your heart to stop beating. And then our last type of muscle tissue, smooth muscle tissue. It's located in your internal organs. Okay, so your stomach, your small intestine, your large intestine, your blood vessels. It is unstriated, which is why it's called smooth muscle tissue. And it, like the cardiac, has involuntary control. You don't tell your stomach to contract and digest your food. So if we look at the slides, here are the pictures. Okay. All right. Let's move that down so we get some more space. This is your skeletal muscle tissue. Yep, all right. So when we look at these long things, each one of these is a muscle cell, okay? Not your typical cell. If you look at it, you can kind of see the zero patterns on here. There's dark bands and there's light bands and dark bands. Those are the striations, okay? That's unique to skeletal and cardiac muscle tissue. These cells are multinucleated. That's what these purple splobs are. Okay, now if we erase that and pull up the cardiac muscle tissue. Oops, I selected you, but apparently I didn't. All right, let's try that again. There we go. Okay. Move that out of the way. So here is our cardiac muscle tissue. Grab the pen again. So here you can see the nucleus. These are those intercalated discs that I mentioned, and they're important because they allow all of these parts, these muscle fibers, to contract at the same time. Okay, it provides something called rhythmicity, which is basically what makes your heart beat more efficient if all of the muscles in a certain area or muscle fibers are contracting at the same time. You can see, if you look closely, the striations are present just like on the other ones. Let's see if we can do this a little bit more smoothly this time. There we go. And then our last type of muscle cells, smooth muscle. Ooh, there we go. And that doesn't have striations. Oh dear. There we go. There. It just kind of looks like a pink kind of a blob. Its cells are more spindle shaped, so they would actually look like this. The pen and draw one. So they're kind of like this. It's hard to see on here, on this particular one, but they kind of go almost, yeah. And then they're going to have the nucleus within that. You can kind of see one right in there. So those are your muscle cells. They're not as long as the skeletal muscles or the cardiac muscles. They don't have the branches. They don't have striations. They look almost like some of your more like your dense connective tissue. All right. And our last type of tissue is nervous tissue. And nervous tissue is found in your nervous system. There we go. So it's found in your brain, your spinal cord, both which make up your central nervous system, as well as your peripheral nerves, which form the peripheral nervous system. The basic cells are called neurons. They're the ones that are capable of conducting nerve impulses. That's what this big blue thing in the middle is. That is a neuron. This is a nerve, kind of a smear of nervous tissue right here. So this thing right here is the cell body of the neuron. These are processes that are coming off of this particular neuron. And then neuroglial cells, a lot of that's these other ones that are around it. There's different kinds of neuroglial cells depending on where they're located. They also have different functions. Some are there to support, some are there to provide a blood supply, some are there to serve as phagocytes to get rid of any kind of pathogen that may hurt it. The neuron, or the nervous tissue. There's also some other fibers in there you can kind of see, but this big guy right there, that would be your neuron.